back of Modern Media Perspectives here at Movin On in Montreal 2019 in the aquarium. And this time we're going to talk with Eric Prévost, who is the Vice President, Industry 4.0 and Emerging Tech with Oracle.
Yeah.
Eric, nice name by the way. It goes along well together, the Eric and Eric interview here. To begin with, obviously Oracle is the software business, but we're talking about this 4.0. That in itself is a term that I think not everyone is familiar with. Can you explain 4.0 to begin with?
Sure. 4.0 is not a general term that you can find everywhere in the world. So in US you can find smart manufacturing, in Japan you can have a society 5.0, but behind the term of industry 4.0, the idea is to say how we can change the business model of the company in the end-to-end approach to really create the fourth industrial revolutions, to create the industrial revolutions and start on a new generation of industrial revolutions with the digital world.
Is there a way of, if that's the fourth generation, can you summarize maybe what the previous three might have been?
Yeah, the first of the industrial revolution was the steam power.
Right.
Where we move the people from the agricultural business
to
do manufacturing. The second one was using the electricity, where you start to have some industrial machines that you were able to use with independent machine to do mass production.
Right.
And the third one was the IT, using the IT for programming. So that's where we got the robotics, the CNC machine for the manufacturing, but at the same time we got the ERP as well, and the financial management, financial processes, so all those kind of automation that we were able to do with the IT.
And now we're on to 4.0.
And now the 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution, the question is how to use a new set of technologies that we have right now available to really transform the world and say, okay, that we have to move to a next generation of sustainable world with much more taking care about the environment, but also creating some new business model around this. And creating some new activities.
And so that's a fair question. How can 4.0 advance and apply? I mean, what would be examples of how this new level of technology and software can advance towards sustainable and better and even overall productive goals?
I think that the question is how to address the evolution of the complexity of the world, because the reason why we have those challenges around sustainability in the business activities or in the world in general, it's because we have to have much more holistic point of view and being able to address complex situation and complex problem in the right way. So the Industry 4.0 is part of that, because Industry 4.0 helps the people to understand how to segment finally the different activities of the company, to really think about how to consolidate those as well, and how to have a much more holistic point of view of how you are progressing and moving forward for your next generation of business.
And I like the word holistic because it's very important. I think it's not done enough leading up to this. The idea of, well, there's a problem, let's fix it. Well, maybe we should think about why the problem exists in the first place.
Right.
And so this is where we're going to see the development with 4.0 getting in there. Now, what would be, is this a platform available for all industries and all sectors? Can you give some examples of how you might see this being fully adopted and implemented?
Yeah, it is natively a platform for multiple industries, because when we are talking about Industry 4.0 again, or industrial revolutions, the purpose of that is to address all the industries. If we are not addressing all the industries, or at least all the manufacturing industries, but not only the industry, manufacturing, but also service industries as well, we need to think about how to change that. And the reality is really to say how those type of technology, emerging technology, IoT, artificial intelligence can be applied for changing that, can help the people to be much more proactive, predictive, and capture much more data, real-time data, to be much more in the action, and also use that to really think about how I can do things much more better in a collaborative way with my colleagues.
You know, and I think it's what's also probably worth noting is the rapid pace of change in technology. I mean, if you're going from 1.0 to 2.0, there was what, a century or so and change, and
not so much, yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 to 3, it's less time. 3 to 4, less time. does the new 4.0 way of operating and managing data and information, does it have the capacity to extend beyond our, I mean, technology is happening so fast, sometimes we can't even imagine what's coming up next. How future-proof or how proactive does 4.0 take businesses?
Yeah, the question is much more how to be agile. Because the question is not to select one technology for the next 20 years. So that was the difference with the new generation of revolution that we have, is that we have some new technology all the time, we have some new innovation all the time. So we have seen some specific industries, technology or innovation that can be core of the next generation of innovations. But at the end, the question is how to change the way to address those new technologies, to be agile and to adopt those technologies when it's useful, and maybe remove these technologies from the market if it's useless or if it's not sustainable as well. So the question is really how to be agile on this.
And that's a good point to transition into, because of course here at Movin On, this is about sustainability. The themes are sustainability, mobility, technology. So how does the application of 4.0 assist business and industry in becoming more sustainable?
So it's helping the business to be much more sustainable by the fact that it helps them to address several topics at the same time, because the problem of the sustainability is to be able to address multiple constraints and multiple change at the same time. That's becoming a very complex problem to solve.
Right.
From environment, human society, and many other topics as well, economic sustainability. So sustainability is not just for the environment, but it's not just for the people, and it's not just for the economy. It's all of that at the same time.
The Sustainable Development Goals with the United Nations are multi-pronged. It's not just the environment.
It's not just the environment. Yeah. So the question is how to make sure that when you are taking a decision, you will have an holistic point of view, and you will take this decision considering all the effect that you can have on the other type of topics.
It almost is sort of like the universal law of science. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
And so this type of platform becomes more inclusive, if I'm understanding correctly, to understand all the possible counter effects, if you will, of one decision versus the next.
Right. So the purpose of the solution is really to say how I can help the people to analyze the influencing factors in the very large scope, and that's clearly to identify the potential side effect of what kind of decision that I will take by defining some different scenarios and helping people to take the right decision based on the different scenarios for serving as well my business, but as well the rest of the environmental transformation and also the society and the customer relationship transformation as well. And this is the only way to be sustainable. Yeah. This is really the only way.
Now, I know from my work in dealing, say, with the automotive sector, the second that we come to an event and see a brand new vehicle launch, I know that behind the scenes, they're already halfway through the development of the model that will follow it, the next generation. Is it safe to say that with the speed of rampant advancement of technology in itself, 5.0, if we want to use that term, is already sort of being envisioned and planned for?
Yeah, I think that the 5.0 is maybe far, because the question of the 4.0 is that we are talking about 4.0. I have the title of 4.0, but that doesn't exist. Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. So.
Because the 4.0 is something that we have to build right now. So before envision the 5.0, first we have to realize the 4.0
and see where we need to go from that.
Yeah, what does it mean exactly, and what kind of outcomes that we can get from that. But the question is really right now how to really implement that very, very quickly, and to see the result of this implementation and to see the positive effect of the implementation of what we want to do. And that's very key right now. It's really to say, if I want to do something, I must be able to do something in the next days, in the next weeks, or in the next months, but not in the next 10 years. And that's where we have the big difference between the other revolutions. Right. Because we have a sense of urgency that we have right now that we didn't got in the past.
And on a day-to-day operations perspective, in a business operating on this level of platform, I guess feedback is critically important as well. And that's part of what this allows it to do, right? You're getting the necessary and collaboration. I believe you mentioned talking that this given the multi departments in an industry and sectors, I mean, collaboration is essential for both profitability, productivity, and sustainability, the triple bottom line, even health. So can you share some examples of how collaboration and the working of this together is to the benefit of an industry or a business?
Yeah, collaboration is key, but openness as well.
Yes.
Transparency is also another big topic as well that we need to have, and
That's
also
true.
very quick implementation. But one example in the manufacturing, for instance, if you have a machine which is going to fail in the shop floor, in the manufacturing shop floor, the question is, are you doing the maintenance right now? But if you are doing the maintenance stopping the production line, you will potentially have some trucks that will go out of the factory empty.
Right.
You will have the customer that will not be very happy with that.
Right.
You will maybe have too much stock of the raw material in your shop floor.
Yeah.
So right now, I would say the decision is taken at the level of the shop floor, because you have the technician manager or the technician guys that can take the decision to stop the machine because you have issue with it. Mm-hmm. But is not asking to the other people, is it make sense in a global way? Does it make sense for the logistics? Does it make sense for the finance? Does it make sense for the customers? And does it make sense for
this would help this type of events with inventory management too. I mean, a lot of manufacturing works on just-in-time production and inventory.
We have the same in the warehouse management.
Right.
We have the same in the logistics. It's the same. It's exactly the same. When you are taking a decision about the logistics, you need to make sure that the inbound and the outbound of the logistic activity is synchronized with your activity, with your logistic decision. And in a warehouse, it's the same. Yeah. When you are improving the warehouse activity, you have to make sure that the logistic around the warehouse management has to be synchronized with your warehouse operations. And if you are not doing that, you are not sustainable, because you are taking local decision and you don't see the side effects.
So as this is just being launched, how do you see in the short term, the next, say, 6 months or a year of rollout for the program? Where do you see this going? And is it spreading into maybe perhaps new industries or sectors that haven't thought about this type of collaboration before?
It's not so much the sector, but it's much more the pace of transformation.
Okay.
I think that right now we are at the step where the maturity of the technology is there. We have the solutions are there. The question is much more the change management, changing the people in term of where they are doing their day-to-day business, and how they can accept to change a little bit their business to be much more sustainable. Right. Which is not, but it's the same for it's the same for business and also individual citizens as well. They have to change their behaviors.
It's a fascinating world, and it's ever increasing. The pace and the speed of which I think. If you think about our parents, how they would have thought about it, we can't even relate to what our children might experience. But this has been an interesting discussion, and I think it leads to a lot more questions, but maybe that's for another time. But I certainly, Eric, I thank you for taking part of this interview.
Thank you.
I enjoyed learning more from you as well, and learning more about 4.0.
Pleasure.
And that's it for the chat with Eric Prévost from Oracle here at Movin On 2019 in the aquarium. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.